Your Excellency, Chairman Christoph Hoskin, dear friends, colleagues, the world we live in is an increasing mix of turbulence and transformation. Many people are asking, where is it headed? If I may borrow the theme of this year's Munich Security Report, it is headed toward multipolarization. When the United Nations was founded 80 years ago, it had only 51 member states. Today, 193 countries ride in the same big boat. A multipolar world is not only a historical inevitability, it is also becoming a reality. Will multipolarity bring chaos, conflict, and confrontation? Does it mean domination by major countries and the strong bullying the weak? China's answer is, we should work for an equal and orderly multipolar world. This is another major proposition put forward by President Xi Jinping, and it represents our sincere expectation for a multipolar world. China will surely be a factor of certainty in this multipolar system and strive to be a steadfast, constructive force in a changing world. Here I want to make 4 points. First, it is important to advocate equal treatment. Rivalry between big powers had brought disaster to humanity, as evidenced by the lessons of the 2 world wars in the not-so-distant past. Whether it is the colonial system or the core periphery structure, unequal orders are bound to meet their demise. Independence and autonomy is sought across the world, and democracy in international relations is an unstoppable trend. Equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal rules should become the basic principles of a multipolar world. It is in this principle that China advocates equality among all countries, regardless of size, and calls for increasing the representation and say of developing countries in the international system. This will not lead to Westlessness, but will deliver more positive sum results to the world. The Munich Security Conference has invited more participants from Global South countries in recent years, and this is a wise thing to do. Every country should have their voice heard. Every country should be able to find their place and play their role in a multipolar paradigm. Second, it is important to respect international rule of law. As an old Chinese saying goes, circles and squares cannot be drawn without compasses and rulers, which means nothing can be accomplished without following norms and standards. The purposes and principles of the UN Charter provide fundamental guidance for handling international relations and are an important cornerstone of a multipolar world. The world today is witnessing incessant chaos and confusion, and one important reason is that some countries believe might makes right and have opened a Pandora's box marked the law of the jungle. In reality, all countries, regardless of size or strength, are stakeholders in international rule of law. The multipolar paradigm must not be a state of disarray. Without norms and standards, one may be at the table yesterday but end up on the menu tomorrow. Major countries must take the lead in honoring their words and upholding rule of law, and must not say one thing but do another or engage in zero-sum game. It is based on the above points of view that China resolutely upholds the authority of international rule of law and actively fulfills its international responsibilities and obligations. It is a member of almost all universal intergovernmental organizations and a party to over 600 international conventions. It never practices exceptionalism, still less cherry-picking. It is providing the greatest certainty in this uncertain world. I wish to emphasize that there should be no double standards in observing international law. Respect for all countries' sovereignty and territorial integrity should mean support for China's complete reunification. Third, it is important to practice multilateralism. In the face of emerging global challenges, no country can stay unaffected. And the we-first approach in international relations only leads to a lose-lose result. The UN is at the core of practicing multilateralism and advancing global governance. This edifice has shielded all countries from wind and rain for nearly 80 years, and is all the more needed in the multipolar world of the future. We should cement its foundation rather than destroy its pillars. We should take up our responsibilities on governing global issues rather than seek self-interests only. It is from this understanding that China upholds true multilateralism and advocates the vision on global governance featuring extensive consultation and joint contribution for shared benefit. We have firmly upheld the authority and stature of the UN and contributed to more than 20% of the UN regular budget. We have acted earnestly on the Paris Agreement on climate change and built the world's largest clean power generation system. We have also proposed and delivered on the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative, providing public goods for improving global governance. Fourth, it is important to pursue openness and mutual benefit. Development holds the key to addressing various problems. The multipolar world should be one where all countries develop together. Protectionism offers no way out, and arbitrary tariffs produce no winners. Decoupling deprives one of opportunities, and a small yard with high fences only ends up restraining oneself. It is important to pursue open cooperation and support an equal and orderly multipolar world with a universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization. It is for this goal that China stays committed to sharing development opportunities with all countries. An Australian scholar called China an enabler, which I find very fitting. With a 5% GDP growth last year, China contributed to nearly 30% of the world economic growth. It has served as an important engine for global economic growth and shared with the world the benefit of its supersized market. China is willing to synergize high-quality Belt and Road cooperation with the European Union's Global Gateway strategy, so as to empower each other and empower the entire world. Friends, China has always seen in Europe an important pole in the multipolar world. The two sides are partners, not rivals. This year marks the 50th anniversary of China-EU diplomatic relations. Taking this opportunity, China is willing to work with the European side to deepen strategic communication and mutually beneficial cooperation and steer the world to a bright future of peace, security, prosperity, and progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Wang Yi, for your speech, and also thanking for clinging to the 10 minutes. We appreciate that. You mentioned the international order, and this is something that also in my introductory remarks I highlighted the need to respect the UN Charter, and we see now a lot of questioning of this. We see Russia invading Ukraine. We have seen from the American president these last weeks where he threatened to use force invading Greenland and Panama, and also the displacement of Palestinians. Your country has been also accused of violating the law of the sea, also the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, you are traveling from here to New York to the Security Council. Do you continue to believe in the United Nations? Do you believe in the Charter of the UN? Will you work also for a reform of the UN Charter? How high is that on your priority?
Well, thank you for your question, Mr. Chairman. I think you mentioned two keywords. One is order, the other is rules. Now, talking about order, over the years, some have been saying that China is attempting to change the order, and China wants to start a new system. Now, we don't see much talk of that because now there is a country that is withdrawing from international treaties and organizations. And I think in Europe, you can feel chills almost every day. As for China, it is growing in the existing order. China is a beneficiary of the existing order. So what China is doing and will do is to, as most countries expected, to move the order in a more just and reasonable direction. Now, talking about rules, people might have different understanding of rules. But I think we can agree on the point that we need to safeguard the UN-centered international system, observe the basic norms governing international relations based on the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. And I think that's the biggest common denominator. As long as we recognize that point, there will not be double standards or the space for double standards. And for major regional and international issues, as Mr. Chairman said, we will have the same yardstick for judging them. China is well aware of the international responsibilities on its shoulders, and we are willing to provide more public goods to the international community. President Xi Jinping has proposed a series of major initiatives and propositions, including the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and Global Civilization Initiative. All of these are aimed at having the international community joining hands to address the growing development deficit, security deficit, and governance deficit we face today. And President Xi Jinping has proposed the major vision of building a community with a shared future for mankind. It is a very grand vision, and we hope to see that all countries will rise above the differences in histories, culture, systems, and ideologies, and work in solidarity to protect this planet, this only planet we all call home, and make the global village a better place where we share the same future. So this is a reflection of the international vision of the Communist Party of China. It is also a reflection of the fine traditional Chinese culture of thinking for the greater good. It has been receiving more support and recognition from the international community, and we will do more to contribute our part to realizing this vision. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the topics here since 22 has been Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At the MSC, just a few days before Russia's invasion, you stated, and I quote, "The sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of any country should be respected and safeguarded because it is a basic norm of international relations. Ukraine is no exception." So you confirmed the Charter of the United Nations. Now, today, Russia has become what John McCain once said here at the Munich Security Conference, China's gas station. I would add it's a gas station with an army. This means you have a lot of influence on Ukraine. Do you see a possibility now that there is more pressure and finally more pressure to finish this war, that from your end you could maybe do something on your side of the gas station and maybe cut the possibility of Russia to supply gas to your country, or lower the price, or stop some of the dual-use goods that are coming there, so that there is more pressure on Russia to finally finish this war?
China and Russia are two neighbors with a long border line. In the past, our relations had gone through twists and turns, and then the two sides drew on the lessons and decided no alliance, no confrontation, no targeting any third country. And based on our mutual trust, we built a comprehensive strategic partnership. So exchanges between China and Russia are normal exchanges between countries. You mentioned, can China stop buying gas from Russia? Well, I'd like to ask this. If China does not buy gas from Russia, which country can provide so much gas as to meet the needs of Chinese people? It's not possible. And it's not safe because, some countries tend to politicize economic and trade issues and treat them as a tool to suppress China. We cannot let that happen. We must be responsible to our people. That said, when it comes to regional hotspot issues, China has its own position. We have all along advocated that all disputes and disagreements should be settled through dialogue in a political way, because force and sanction cannot truly and completely solve the issue. The same goes for the Ukraine issue. From the day after the crisis broke out, which was the 25th of February 2022, China put forward the resolution through dialogue and consultation. President Xi Jinping put forth 4 points. It has been the most authoritative explanation of China's position. Namely, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries should be respected. The purposes and principles of the UN Charter should be observed. The legitimate security concerns of all parties should be taken seriously, and all efforts conducive to peace should be supported. And following this as a guidance, we have been working to promote peace through talks. Even if there is only one ray of hope, we make 100% efforts. We have sent our special envoy to mediate in various countries. Together with Brazil and other global South countries, we launched the Group of Friends for Peace. Now, with the passing of time, we can say that China's position is fair, objective, and rational, and practical. They reflect the greatest common consensus of the international community. The ending point of any conflict is the negotiation table, and history will ultimately be fair. China would love to see all efforts conducive to peace, including, over the past couple of days, the United States had reached common understanding with Russia. And we believe that all parties and all stakeholders should, at an appropriate time, participate in peace talks process. This war is happening on European soil, and Europe should play an important role in the process. To work together to address the root cause of the crisis and discuss how to achieve long-term stability and security of Europe. Find a way that is acceptable to all sides to achieve just and balanced and sustainable European security architecture. Thank you.
Thank you. We have run out of time, but I would at least very briefly ask you to give us a sneak preview of how you think the relationship between US and China will develop.
I know this is on many people's minds. Here, I'd like to tell you that China's policy, U.S. policy, is consistent and stable. We don't easily flip-flop. And this reflects our strategic constancy and international reputation as a major country. Our U.S. policy is the three principles put forward by President Xi Jinping, namely mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. China and the U.S. have different systems, indeed, and they have been chosen by our peoples. To change or even overturn each other is unrealistic. The right approach is to respect each other. This is the premise for China-U.S. engagement. And peaceful coexistence is self-evident. You can't have conflict between two major countries like China and the U.S. Otherwise, the world would suffer. So dialogue is needed, and we need to strengthen exchanges to boost understanding and build trust. Mutually beneficial cooperation is because the world expects us to cooperate, and global challenges require China and the U.S. to work together to address. And this is the due responsibility of two major countries like China and the U.S. China is ready to, following these three principles, build stable, sound, and sustainable bilateral relations with the U.S. and find the right way for these two major countries to live alongside each other on this planet. Of course, we hope that the U.S. will work in the same direction with us. However, if the U.S. is not willing, if it is bent on suppressing and containing China, then we have no choice but to play along to the end. We will resolutely uphold China's sovereignty, national dignity, and our legitimate development rights. And we will resolutely respond to unilateral bullying practices of the U.S. We do so also to maintain international fairness and justice, and to uphold basic norms of international relations. The Chinese people have never been swayed by fallacies or deterred by intimidation. The People's Republic of China has grown by overcoming various difficulties and obstacles. In China, there's this old saying, "As heaven maintains its vigor through movement, a man of virtue constantly strives for self-perfection." In China, there's also a saying, very vivid. It goes, "Let the strong do as they will. We remain as unperturbed as the gentle breeze caresses the hills. Let the fierce act as they may. We maintain our poise as the bright moon illuminates the river. No matter which way the wind blows, north or south, east or west, we will remain calm and unshakable." I know this might not be the easiest to translate, and there might be different versions in terms of translation. We welcome discussions for more versions, and you might turn to DeepSeek for some help. All in all, we are fully confident about the prospects of the world, and we are fully confident about the future of China-U.S. relations. China and the U.S. have one direction to work for, and that is, as I mentioned repeatedly, mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. And this is the greatest expectation of the international community as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much also for this proverb. We see if we have ChatGPT or so translating it, but I thought the English translation we got was pretty good. Thank you for being here. I sincerely hope also you can use the possibility of Munich to meet with representatives of the new U.S. administration. It would be very good that what you are also proposing, more talks and discussion on these issues, would materialize here in Munich. I wish you again good luck on your trip to New York, and thank you for being such a good guest here to the Munich Security Conference. Thank you for this. All the best.